Kiri Moto, a 100% browser-based but locally processing slicer. It's new to the market. Let's take a look at it. Thank you so much for joining us on the 3D Musketeers YouTube channel. We're going to talk about Kiri Moto today, a slicer that I am seeing now for the first time. I'm excited because I've never used this slicer before. It's basically one of the newest ones in the industry, and as you can see, it is entirely browser based, which is really freaking cool if you ask me. But being new, it doesn't have the greatest support behind it. I'm told it's decent for belt printers, but hey, we don't have one. So let's just jump into it. This is what you see when you load it up. It gives you this cube thing. Now, one thing I do want to note, a lot of times you can hit and hold the center mouse wheel, and that will enable you to pan across. Not in Kiri Moto. It is literally a secondary version of the scroll wheel for zoom. So, yeah, one thing to know there. So let's look at setting up the machine. Oh, look at them. They've got a decent profile set here. So, of course, only the MK2S. Now, that's weird. All right, whatever. Let's just grab it. Yeah, honestly, that's fine. I don't know why it's called the MK2S, but looking at that start, it's totally good. Fan power's fine. Yeah, no, totally cool there. 250 by 210 by 210. Good. That's good. See, now you have your belt bed, which is really, really cool. Yep. Cool. Yeah, all that's nice and simple. This is, I mean, it's really friggin' basic, but honestly, that's pretty dope. I mean, it works well. So, all right, let's look at it. So we can grab it, we can look at customizing it, which I don't think we need to. It heats up the extruder to 160, which is the important part. You don't want printers that have bed leveling, like auto bed leveling, to probe at full temperature on the nozzle, because it will cause blobbing. You do and you should probe at full temp on the bed. That way, that if your probe is sensitive to temperature, like some of them can be, you don't have too many issues. I like that they have, very basic settings here where you can bring it in, you grab it in as one of your devices. And, honestly, for a fairly new slicer, the fact that they have any devices puts them ahead of ideaMaker as far as I'm concerned. But you can go over to SLA, only a couple in there, which kind of blows, but that's all right. Under CNC machines, you've got lots to choose from, and lasers, which is interesting. I'd be curious to see if we could slice it for our laser. Get subscribed if you want to see that, because I'll give it a shot. I have no idea if it's going to work, but I'd totally try it. Light burn is better for lasers as far as I'm concerned, but hey, we'll give it a shot. But yes, this is cool. This is really, really cool. All right, I'm good with this. Let's save it and let's take a look. So now we have our new bed layout here. I like they put the numbers on the side. That's good if you're trying to track things, but generally speaking, these are normally 5 or 10. On this one, it's 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 millimeters. So it gives you an idea just kind of looking at something where it stands. So let's look at preferences. So, okay, we can invert our zoom. Dark mode. Yes, please. You know what it's about. Dark mode, all the freaking things. We can put it into developer, even experimental, which we're not going to do. I will put it in no, Grant, take it out of developer. This is a basics video. We're going to do a deep dive on Kiri Moto because honestly, this is kind of cool. Auto save, auto layout, free layout, man. It's got exports for Octoprint, code previews, part quality, best. We'll leave it at good. It does even decimate, which is awesome. And it can heal. Wow. This is really cool. Those are features that I wasn't expecting. And honestly, this one, I kind of almost prefer the light mode because it might burn out my eyes, but the pure black background is a little distracting. So we'll leave it off of dark mode. I know. I said it. I'm so sorry. Okay. let's look at bringing in a file. So we're going to try the standard drag and drop method with the 3D Benchy, which of course I pre-prepared this time. Oh! Yes! Drag and drop! I know I shouldn't be excited about drag and drops, but and that whole auto center is nice, but honestly, probably gonna get rid of that. I know that's like a stock feature. You don't always want your part to be in the middle of the bed, and when you bring in another part, it's gonna auto arrange everything. And that's not something that I would want as someone that's developing a, print bed. If you want to see how other slicers do it, we'll have a card right up here where you're able to look at the rest of the series for our slicer dives. These are all kind of 30,000 foot level. We're going to do deep dives into each of them coming soon, so make sure you get subscribed for that as well, because honestly, so far, Kiri Moto's been the one that surprised me the most. I went into it never using it, so I didn't know what to expect, and the fact that my notes say it's relatively new and there's little support out there, and that it's browser-based, gave me literally zero hope. So yeah, I walked into this with notions of, this is gonna suck, but here I am, incredibly surprised, so hats off to Kiri Moto. Let's take a look at our layers, our height, shell count. I am gonna change this, so I want them all to be consistent. Shell count of 3, line width, I'm assuming if you leave it at 0, let's go to expert. Okay, expert just for retract distance. Line width we do want at like 0.45, but I'm gonna leave it at 0. Top layers 3, solid layers 3, base layers 3. Which is interesting because top and solid layer should viably be the same. They've got one for adaptive, which is awesome. So this uses adaptive layer heights with layer height as max and layer min as the min. Very cool. Just a quick little button and it does it all for you. This will detect thin walls. Our base structure, our layer height is... Okay, so this is our first layer, my guess would be. All these nozzle temps at 0, so let's do, I don't know, 210, 65. Fan speed, we're going to leave that off. Shell speed, good lord have mercy. Oh, this is the base layer, so we should be okay. Width factor, flow factor are good. Skirt count is good. Skirt offset is good. I like this. I don't like how it just kind of goes away. I'd like to leave it up while I'm moving around, so I can look at it. So maybe there's a way to fix that. I don't know. Yes, gyroid all the things, which is great. Fill fraction. I'll be persnickety about this. Fill densities between 0 and 1. So this is a 25% infill. We would probably want that at, at 10%. I would prefer it that it could be in like number values instead of a decimal value. And I wonder, it does not appear that there is a way for us to change that as of right now. So we will move forward. But I do like that print speed, which allows you to set it. I guess it's not set there. Who knows? Gives us our support material there. I like that. I like that it can do automatic or not. Let's see what else we have under support. Expand. Extra support area beyond the part boundary in millimeters. Okay, so this is useful if you have a overhang that you want to make sure that you get it just a little bit over. So I might recommend expanding 0.5 millimeter or so. That'll make sure that you get that line even if you're a little not accurate. It is useful. It's not necessary, but it can be useful. Of course, it uses more material, but if you're adding a bunch of supports to a model like that, I think your main concern is whether or not it's going to succeed. If it costs you an extra 20 grams of filament, does anybody really care? You care if you lose that 12 hours or longer that it might take to print the part. So I recommend using it. I see that it's off there, so that's okay. Okay, so there you go. So if we look at our layers and our base, I adjusted these because I didn't know any better. My guess is when you have it off, that on the output, it just utilizes the output temperature. So, okay, good to know. Print speed's a little slow, so this is going to be one of the slower benchies. 50 millimeters a second is pretty darn slow, but it will result in nice looking prints. It's got the ability to do shell order as well as layer start. Okay, so this lets you choose where your start and stop points are from what I can tell. So you have last, center, and origin. Let me verify. If I put my wheel over it, it should viably. Nope, it doesn't tell us. And then it also allows you to retract on layers. Inside of expert, give us our retract distance, our retract speed. If there is a wipe, engage dwell. What is this about? The time between re-engaging filament and the moving in milliseconds. That is useful if you have a Bowden or Bowden printer where you need to wait for the filament to get back and let that back pressure build before you start. I would highly recommend that you look at tweaking that, because on direct drive printers that is likely going to result in blobbing and can result in blobbing from your Bowden printers as well. So potentially like a ramming setting, but I'm not sure. This is the one thing I wish this industry could get right, is a consistent style for machine parameters and verbiage, right? Nobody else uses the term engage dwell that I've seen. Maybe Cura does in one of their incredible settings in there. And if you want to see that Cura video, we're going to link to it right up here in the card. This is kind of cool. You got built-in Z-hop. You have coast. This is the one thing I wish PrusaSlicer would have that Simplify 3D has, that Cura has. Coasting is really, really important, especially on Bowden printers where you have that back pressure and you don't want it to string. Stringing occurs when you don't retract enough or you have back pressure forcing filament out during a movement. Coasting allows you to solve this problem. Awesome to see that on this brand new slicer. And I'm also seeing that Moto works on a phone, which is awesome if you want to be able to play around with slicer settings out and about. I love that. Z-hop is great to see. Anti-backlash. This is to deal with the backlash in cheap printers that use cheap lead screws. Probably not necessary, I would think. I would think that it's not necessary, but that's, you know, kind of is what it is. And then we can go ahead and save the profile. Honestly, that little, as dumb as that is, that little animation where it opens up and closes like that, I kind of like it. This, by the way, is, okay, we are in 2.9. Ooh, I want to know what 3.0 dev looks like. Kiri Moto is out of date. Hold shift and refresh the page to update. Okay. This is a beta development release. Okay. Let's talk about using beta. So PrusaSlicer and Cura both allow you to compile beta versions. Kiri Moto's like, hey, if you want to do it, man, we are totally cool. You can do it. So I'm just really curious to see in here what has potentially changed. So that appears to be the same. That appears to be the same. That appears to be the same. I'm sure it's just an optimization thing. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the main release version, but to see that they're almost on their 3.0 and they're on 2.9, that's pretty darn cool. We can view it from the top. We can clear the view. Did I just, yep, I probably did. Oh no, Control Z doesn't work. So we will have to reload the Benchy. RIP. So do note, don't hit clear or it's going to clear your model, even though I thought that it would just make it invisible. It does not. So we can go ahead and do the slice preview. Wow. And if we look, no, it's definitely doing the slicing inside of Chrome. So we can see that Chrome is using a lot of horsepower right now. That tells me that it's doing a lot of the work inside of Chrome. Now we wait. The slicing has just finished. Yep, and Chrome goes away. So it is doing the slicing locally, which is really nice, but it is done inside of Chrome. So this is defaulting to what? This has got to be speed. Yep, this is showing you speed. I don't know if I like this as a default view. It makes it just look like Rainbow Vomit, which, don't get me wrong, I love Rainbow Vomit colors. But this might be an inaccurate representation if you don't know immediately that this is showing you speed. My reason for thinking it is this. So we can see we have our movement that we can add in. Very cool. Engage, which is going to be our D-retract, I would guess. Arrows? What do arrows mean? Direction of travel, maybe? Honestly, no freaking clue. Engage and retract are our retract and D-retract. So, okay. We can go right to export. We can, of course, also render it as a solid, which will turn that off. We can render it as a wireframe, and we can render it as a ghost, so you can now see through it. So, yeah, I dig it. And the fact that you can easily just turn this on and off is very, very nice. So we can remove the print speed and just render it as a solid, and you're good to go. So I do really like this. Honestly, this is better than I expected. And it's simple, right? I don't think it's got a lot of the features that I would look for, but given how old Kiri Moto is, let's actually find that out. Let's see how old Kiri Moto is. Oh, it just takes me right to it. I want to see when Kiri Moto was released, but it may not be available. So let's look at, because Kiri Moto, I think, is somehow powered by Onshape. I don't know how this works, but it can somehow work with Onshape. Kiri Moto releases. Okay, so we've got a forum, which is nice to see. The fact that even though it's new and it's got some basic profiles is pretty astounding to me. We see that they have their, let's see, it's home of GridSpace. GridSpace is it maybe the parent company? They've got their own open source 3D printer. This is going to take me straight to Kiri Moto. Yes, it will. Oh, and that's cool. Well, maybe not. So it pulls what I had here. So let's bring in a different model. Give me just a second. Let's bring in a different model. So if I input a different model, will it update my original one? It appears not. Okay, so it's remembering where you last worked, which is pretty cool. And this actually enables you to have more than one part in there. I can dig that 100%. That's cool, because then it's kind of a big deal, especially when you're doing more than one project, that you want to have more than one thing open. Do I like that it's browser-based? I don't know. The fact that it does process locally is really nice. And I guess you don't have to install anything, so you can do it on Android, iOS, Linux, anything. So that is kind of cool. Anyways, yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't have the finite control that you would expect out of a PrusaSlicer or out of a Cura, but it's also not a PrusaSlicer or a Cura. Oh, hey, there's a bug. It's got a black line across the screen now because I went to setup and it's not working. Interesting. Do I have to refresh? Yeah, I have to refresh. So, all right. Be careful about that. We're going to turn dark mode on now, just so I can see. Yeah, you know, honestly, I don't know if I actually like dark mode on this. I don't think it's a great implementation. I think that it's very difficult to read, and it doesn't really abide by some of the standards for dark mode. So, yeah, I know Grant saying he doesn't like the dark mode, but I think this is much nicer. It looks a lot cleaner. But hey, whatever. It is less popular, but it is one of the useful printers for belt machines. So if you have maybe a Creality CR30 Naomi Woo's print mill, because naming, this might be a slicer that you would use. But honestly, I don't have a lot of qualms about this. I think a lot of my qualms are kind of growing pains that you would expect from a slicer like this. So normally I think I'd be kind of upset, right? Grant should be ranting about this, but I think because they're so new, I'm kind of giving him a pass, right? I want to see more options, and quite frankly, I want to see them implemented a little bit better. But I think that the slicing process is pretty easy, right? You go over here to slice, you click preview, it does your slice up here, and yeah, it's showing you what it's doing at the time, which I do like, so you can get an idea of what things take. I don't like that it doesn't give me, parts for it, so I'll show you guys what I mean here in just a second. It doesn't tell me how long the print's gonna take. It doesn't give me any information about the part itself. Now, of course, we can We can go layer by layer and look at it. See, I don't like the color. The color throws you off. I'm sure there's got to be a way to change that. I hope. Gosh, is there not a way to change this? I don't like that. Let me do code preview and let me reslice it. All right. I mean, that to me is going to be a downside, that I'm not really able to oh, the ghost on this. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Unnecessary but cool. It's difficult to see the infill patterns because the colors, this is not colorblind friendly either. Now, I'm not colorblind, but I know that people out there are. There needs to be a better implementation, and maybe I'm missing it, which is honestly totally possible. Oh, that's a pain in the butt too. If I go below the window, it doesn't work anymore, but above the window, it's totally fine. I like this, but I'm trying to be nice to them because, like, I want to, for some reason, give them a pass because they're new. Let's see. This is nice. Okay, it's got all of these really nice hotkeys built in that I didn't use any of it because it's not something that I would use often. Can you adjust? No, you cannot. We look at support. These are all... Hey, they have a Discord. That's cool. It is open source, so we see that it's also integrated into other web-based applications. And there you go. That's it. So they're built into Onshape so you can design and then go right into slicing. Honestly, pretty darn cool. Makes Onshape more valuable in my opinion, but we'll get into Onshape in a bit. We're going to talk about some of the other 3D modeling programs out there, and Onshape and I have a particular history. Thingiverse as a native things app, simplyprint.io is a primary slicer, and CamLab is a fork of an earlier version of Kiri Moto. That's really cool. It's got a, kind of a get started, which I do like, and we can see there about, and we are on version 2.9.5 for reference. And I do like it that Kiri comes from Kiri, which I'm sure I will butcher, which is the Japanese art of paper crafting. Moto is short for modeling tool. You can also export your profile, which is pretty cool. So we do like workspace 1. It'll create a backup of your device profiles and settings. I can also include the workspace, which should include the model. And there you go. It saved it to my computer. So now... what if I want to load something? All right, I'm going to bring in a different model. Let's see if we can make this work. So here's a part that I can show people. Beautiful. But now I want to import this KM file. That is super cool. It allows you to save your browser sessions for your slicing. That is awesome. That's like a 3MF file for Prusa. Wow. This slicer is turning out to be way, way cooler than I thought. I am really going to keep an eye on Kiri Moto. Right, this is what Cura was like back in the day, where it's like, I still got some growing pains, but holy hell, this is kind of awesome. And yeah, they don't have a ton of profiles, right? They have some, but if we look, they've got the CR30. Let's take a look at the CR30. The CR30 is the print mill. Oh, and that's so cool. It's got the Naomi Wu there. Oh, that is so cool. I love this. I honestly, yeah, A+. Kiri Moto, A+. Given how old they are, I am impressed. I'm impressed. I don't say that often. Like, I know about Cura. I knew a little bit about ideaMaker. I know a lot about PrusaSlicer, and I know a fair bit about Simplify 3D, but I didn't know anything about this. And honestly, totally impressed. Totally impressed. And it's a really, really easy, change between machine. I can fault it for a few things, like, this implementation of all of the settings. While I like it on the side, oh, look at that. You can save individual material. They're still learning, right? Clearly they're still learning, and that's okay. Can I recommend it? Honestly, yeah, I can probably recommend it. I think you have to kind of manage those expectations when you go in, but it's actually a pretty decent slicer. I can't complain, right? A browser-based slicer that does the processing locally, right? So you don't have to worry about too many issues with, you know, companies stealing your ideas. I need to read through their end user license agreement, so if I find anything egregious, I'll come back with future grant and let you guys know. But yeah, I can fault it for a lot of things, but given that it's not that old, I feel like it's going to get a pass because it's not that old. I can fault it for having a crappy dark mode. I can fault it for defaulting to something that is really not friendly to the human eye, and especially not friendly to people that are colorblind. But yeah, honestly, well exceeded expectations. Open source, browser-based, easy to use, a couple of small issues, but they're clearly working on it, and they make it really easy for you to play in experimental versions as well as some of the old ones. Can't fault that. Can't freaking fault that. I'm gonna give Kiri Moto like a B, a solid B. It's good, it's usable, but you know what? There's always room for improvement. I'm gonna give PrusaSlicer an A. Cura's gonna get an A. We'll do ratings later on. But I would say if we were in school, this is going to be a B to a B minus. Implementation is really good. It is slightly above average, I guess, for what I was expecting. So it did exceed my expectations, but it does still have some work to go. And if we look at their GitHub, we can look at some of the pull requests that they're working on, which is awesome. And I think if we look at our code, we can see that they are doing a lot of development. So I'm going to give Kiri Moto a B or a B minus, somewhere in that range. I think they've got some room to improve, but I think that especially with belt printers becoming more popular, if they focus on making belt printers easier to use, I think they'll become the de facto slicer for belt printers. I also believe that if they can continue this similar UI style, I don't like this whole, you know, up and down to zoom thing with your center mouse wheel. I think that should be pan like it is in basically every other program. But I think their changes are kind of small, and the fact that it is open source allows people to fork off of it if they want and kind of develop their own. I dig it. So we'll print a benchy on it. The benchy for it, I don't know what color, but we'll figure it out. But we are going to print a benchy for every slicer that we're going to use so you guys can see it. I'm going to mess around with it for resin as well. So if you do have a resin printer and you want to learn about resin, slicing, supports, and even converting files, there's some tricks to that. Make sure you get subscribed because we're going to be doing this whole series, but for resin printers coming very soon. I'm excited. I really like Kiri Moto. I did not think I was gonna like it, but I totally love it. It is completely exceeded my expectations, which I guess when you set them low enough, it's not that difficult, but I like it. They obviously have some improvement to make, and that's okay, but I think they're on the right path here. So devs of Kiri Moto, if you're watching this, keep up the good work. I want to see where this goes, and I would love to get in touch with you guys to show off new features in upcoming releases where we might be able to be the ones that show it off. So let me know. Our public email is youtube@3dmusketeers.com, and it's in all of our descriptions. So if you guys want to reach out to me directly as well, you can. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments. Have you used Kiri Moto? Do you like it? And yeah, what do you think of it? I'll see you guys down in the comments. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Ma'am, can I help you? Can I help you? Hurt my back. Ow. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed Kiri Moto as much as I did, make sure you click the link below me so that you can check out the entire Slicer series playlist. But remember, Patreon is coming soon, so your name could be scrolling over here. We'll see you guys in the next one, and I will see you down in the comments. Take care.